Okay, perfect. So thanks for the opportunity. We've walked this road with SS for a while now, and we're just having a quick refresh course, which is nice. I think it's healthy for us to all just stay on the same wavelength in terms of what the product can offer, who we are, and what we're about. The dynamics have changed so much over the years. Billion has been in South Africa for about 20 years. At one point, I'm talking about 2012, there was around 1.2, 1.1 million ADSL lines, predominantly made available by Telkom. And at that point, we had sold over 650,000 ADSL routers into that space. So we had a very big market share. And it's a testament to what Billion can offer, an ISP and a telco, because there's a lot of integration that was needed back in those days to integrate with the DSLAMs and the MSLAMs. So Billion matched that integration spec, and we benefited greatly in those days to sell the quantities of routers that we've sold. Then the market changed. While we came directly into the market, other big players came in, and we lost a bit of market share there. But we still have a very strong value proposition, and that's what we're going to just have a discussion around today. It's going to be very interactive, so please just stop me, or I don't mind being interrupted. It's going to be a sort of open session, so all questions are welcome. So Billion was started in 1973, so many years of experience. The company started off as an electronics components manufacturing business, and then moved into manufacturing on an OEM basis, and then ultimately launched the Billion brand. So there are a few other divisions in Billion. There's a Billion Watts division, which is an electronics division focusing on solar power, and it's a division that's flying over in the east. There's a division called Billion Sun Power. There's a division in the USA called Beck that's doing very well. And currently, Billion is the #1 selling outdoor CPE brand in America. So there's a lot of good stories that are coming out of what we're producing. We have a manufacturing plant. We own it. We can capacity of 400,000 units a month. That's a decent sized business. It's listed on the Taiwanese Stock Exchange back in 2000. The founders of the business, the Chen family, are still actively involved in the business, and that's one of the good things around Billion, is that it's not a monstrous board of unknown people that you try to reach out to. It's people that you can contact. I mean, Fiona's accessible, the whole management team's accessible, which allows us to be able to customize certain products for certain client environments. And that becomes quite valuable today because there's a lot of integration and there's a lot of development requirements around. So that's the sort of background to who Billion is. So back into the slide, why Billion? So we manufacture and develop high quality access modems and routers. The testament to this is that we still get requests for firmware on products that we've sold over 20 years ago. In South Africa, in fact, 2 weeks ago, we got a request for a 5200 little ADSL modem that the guy wanted assistance with. So products that are lasting 15 to 20 years in the South African environment is quite substantial. It's quite unique, and that's a testament to the quality of the products. Okay, so the components are decent. The chipsets are decent. We only purchase from the leading manufacturers of top quality chipsets, and the CPE range is all built around stability, security, and having a resilient product for global deployment. Customers that we're targeting, you guys would know this. It's SME customers, home users, machine-to-machine IoT, system integrators, and then your telcos and your carrier market. Okay, any questions on what I've just mentioned? You guys comfortable with the background as to who billion is and what we've done?
All good, thanks.
All good, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay. So the specs that you guys have been exposed to in terms of the products that you are launching, or not launching, but you've been selling over the last couple of years, which is the M100, M120, which we'll go through all of these now, the 4500 range, 7800, and then the 8700. Those selections or selection of products have these specifications listed, right? So on the LTE side, a lot of these products have either 1 or 2 SIM slots, so that guarantees redundancy. It's become very popular in South Africa with the the decommissioning of ADSL lines. A lot of people are migrating over to LTE, and LTE is great if you're with one service provider, but if you're with 2 service providers, it's even better. You can guarantee redundancy and you can keep that internet connection up and running. The products are also wireless products, as you guys know, wireless N, AC, and AX. The N, AC, and AX is just different speeds that the router transmits a wireless signal to, so your laptop and other things can connect to it. The N speed is a 802.11 N300 megabits per second speed. The AC is the 2400 gigahertz frequency, and the 5 gigahertz frequency, 2.4 and 5, and that's quite common today. It's sort of the most common Wi-Fi standard. And then we're moving towards AX, which is a combination of the two. And we've heard of stories on a MIMO infrastructure, which means multi-in, multi-out, of speeds being up to 14 gigs. So there is a lot of progression in terms of the Wi-Fi infrastructure. The features also include backup and failover. This is very important. On certain features, you've got your EWAN ports. The EWAN port is a standard port on the back of the router. You get your 4 gigabit ports on most of our routers. One of them has been provisioned for EWAN, which means it can facilitate a ADSL cable or a fiber cable to give you an extra WAN option. So we all know what a LAN is. That's a local area network, and then your WAN is your wide area network, which is effectively the internet, right? So, or your broadband. So having an EWAN port gives somebody who has fiber at their premises, it gives them the option to carry on using the fiber, but also use the router's LTE functionality or DSL functionality. So it gives you the ability to jump across those applications. VoIP become very popular. It's quite cheap now. I know you guys are involved with selling VoIP, I believe, Herman. So there is an option to set a standard router up that we sell, which we'll go through now, that has a VoIP option, an FXS port, where you can plug in a normal telephone, a stock standard PSTN telephone, plug it into the FXS port, and you'll be able to set up a SIP account through a service provider and be able to make and receive VoIP calls for around, 30 cents, 30, 40 cents a minute, and that's across all networks. So the FXS functionality does exist on a lot of our routers, and it's something that people aren't really focusing on, but they should if they've got a small office or a home office, because it gives you the ability on the routing side of your hardware to make and receive VoIP calls without having to go for a whole SIP phone setup. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the FXS is the S is the subscriber side, and then you often have the FXO port, which is your operator side. Okay, so you would plug your normal phone into your FXS port, and you'll be able to send and receive VoIP calls. So that's cool. So I know, Herman, you sell a lot of stock standard phones, right? Little, relatively affordable phones. So with a billion, whatever it is, 7.4 series, you can plug in, or the 4.5 series, you can plug in a stock standard phone into that router, and through your service provider, you will have the ability to make and receive VoIP calls. It's quite an important feature, guys, so make a note of that. The VPN capabilities, it's a tunneling protocol, a virtual private network. It gives you security around making calls and sending and receiving data between different branches. It's a layer 2 protocol, so it's very secure, and it's also worth mentioning that to clients, that a lot of our products have VPN capabilities. Okay, jumping into the models, the 7800 series you've been selling, the NX you've been selling, the DXL, the VDOX, all ADSL routers. So yes, that market is dying out, but you can still use these routers if you decide to go for a LTE option. The X on the naming convention shows you, as per the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, your naming notes. It supports a USB port, either 3G or 4G, a USB dongle. So even though you have bought the router, you've sold this particular 7800X or NX or DXL, you will be able to put a USB dongle into that router with LTE on it, and you'll be able to carry on using that router. And if you've got a ADSL line and it's still active and provisioned, you can then set up the router so that you have a primary connection being the ADSL and the secondary connection being the LTE. So that's pretty cool. Just on the naming convention, guys, so I'm sure the ones, you guys that have been selling the product for a while, you've probably always wondered, what does the DXL, NX, all of that mean? Well, there it is over there. So if I was you, I'd just make a note of those points, those naming notes. So X is for USB, 3G and 4G modems. N is wireless N. Okay, D is dual band wireless, which is your 2.4 and your 5. VoIP is voice over IP. And then you've got your Office, which is your VPN capabilities. And then you've got your low VPN capabilities, which is your light version, and then your independent port. So the products that you currently have, the 7800, it starts off as a ADSL router with no wireless. And can anybody give me a scenario why somebody would not want a wireless router in their business?
Because they want it for a voice solution and not for data.
That's true, but more importantly, a lot of guys go for a non-wireless option due to the perception of security breach. So as soon as there's a wireless SSID being transmitted, there's a perception that, you know, somebody could hack into that router through the wireless interface. So there are clients that go, listen, I don't want wireless. I want a stock standard hardwired router. And that's where you could sell them the 7800X. Okay. On the wireless side, you know, anything from 300 megabits per second all the way up to 1,200 megabits per second, which, as I say, that's sort of the new standard. And there is a progression to, you know, towards faster speeds, as we all know. Any questions on that, guys?
Yeah, if I may, Greg, are you going to share this presentation with us?
I have no problem sharing with you. Yes.
If you don't mind, then we don't have to write all this down. But just on your legend at the bottom there, the naming notes, it doesn't have A. So you've got an 8200A XL. What was A again?
The 8200 AXL.
The second one, and then the 8200AX.
Where are you seeing the AX? Oh, in the bottom there.
Yeah, the bottom two.
Yeah, that's just your wireless speeds, eh? So that's, remember I mentioned, wait, let's just go back. Yeah, this is your AXs and your ACs.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
sorry.
Yeah.
Got it, thank you,
Yeah.
sorry.
No problem. Look, I mean, you know, 300 megs I've had in my home for a long time. Sorry, 300 megabits, and it's fine. You know, I've got another router that's doing 1,200, but I can't really tell the difference because a lot of it's limited to the actual devices, the speed of the devices that you're downloading. You know, like if your laptop is still relatively old, it doesn't matter that your wireless speed on your router is so quick and your laptop isn't. So just understand that. Okay, cool. So then the 4500 series, which you guys have also been selling, the NZ. The N stands for, again, the wireless N, 300, and then the Z represents the internal SIM slot. Okay, so as opposed to the X on the 7800 series, the N represents the embedded SIM. So it's less complicated to install a SIM card onto a router without using a dongle. A dongle would generally be, there'd need to be compatibility. So having a option to just insert the SIM card directly into the router is now pretty much the most common way of getting LTE access. So some of our routers have a single SIM slot, and some of them have a dual SIM slot, which will allow you to do failover and offer redundancy to your clients.
There's also the risk when you use USB dongles in a device where people actually remove those dongles, and by doing so jeopardize the failover capabilities of a router. So having your SIM card embedded in your router obviously is a lot more secure, and people don't remove it, so you're always on.
100%, sure. Until they figure out that that little SIM slot is for a SIM card. But yes, at least, and you spot on, because with a big dongle in the back of the router, people that are just sort of mulling around, when they see that, they know exactly what it is, and it's easy to pull it out and take it. And sometimes, or a lot of the times, your router is set up to fail over to LTE, which is the purpose of the dongle. So even if they pull it out, generally that router will still have connectivity using the primary connection, and you won't know that it's not there. You won't know that the dongle's gone until your primary connection drops, and then you'll wonder why there's no failover. So spot on, yeah, with an internal SIM, that's going to eliminate that problem. So that's the LTE, LTE-A, LTE-A Pro. In general terms, guys, I mean, you should know this. LTE is effectively 3G, LTE-A is 4G, and then LTE-A Pro is heading towards the 5Gs, which is, you can see those different speeds at the bottom of the screen. 150 megabits per second. These are the top ends. I mean, in real life scenarios, you never get these type of speeds. 1 gig and 3 gigs. Okay, so you'll understand those LTE speeds. Right. Let me see another point. No. Okay, so I don't know if anyone knows this, but the USB port on the back of a router. Yes, you can insert on our routers, you can insert a dongle. But does anyone know what other purposes or other uses you can deploy over that USB port?
No, you can charge a phone.
Yes, you can. You can.
Storage.
Yes,
storage,
yes, storage, 100%. So it can act as a network access storage facility, which means like if you want to share something, okay, on your laptop, what a lot of people do is, if it's a big file or whatever, they would put it on a flash stick, and then they would take it to their friend or whoever it is that's working in their environment, and then they would plug that flash stick into their laptop and download that file. So with a USB port on a router, you can insert that flash stick onto that router, and everybody that's on the LAN can log in and download that file, which is pretty cool. So that's one of the, yeah, it's one of the features that nobody really sort of understands, and yeah, I think it's cool. Same with firmware updates. If you're trying to update a client's router, you can use that. You can download the file onto a flash stick, and then take it out of your laptop, put it into the router, and then download the firmware onto the router. So it can also be used for that. Yeah, and then obviously the dongle component is what we use it for. So there's a lot more to that little USB port. It acts as a storage device and a sharing feature. Right. Jump into the 7800 range ADSL routers with an internal SIM slot. The A7820, who was that, Jason? Who was selling those? Or Chris? Who was selling the A7820? It was Chris.
Yeah, it's me.
So the 7820 you're quite familiar with. It's an ADSL router with 2 SIM slots, so it has a single LTE radio. So you're offering a client the triple WAN, right? You've got an ADSL connection plus 2 SIM slots, so you can go LTE Vodacom, LTE M2M, and you can say to the client, in terms of redundancy, you should never be down. Most of these products have a single LTE radio. There are some which we'll talk about that have 2 LTE radios. So when a tower does go down, for example, Vodacom, and the product like the 7820 has a single LTE radio, then there will be a lag. It will take a couple of minutes for the second SIM to activate onto the second tower. So there might be a 2-3 minute lag. It will take as long as it takes to turn your cell phone on. If you've turned it off, it's just a couple of minutes to reconnect. On our M500 products, we have the dual LTE solution where both radios are concurrently running, and then there won't be a lag when one of the towers goes down because both LTE radios are running. A little bit more expensive because it's effectively 2 routers or 2 modems in one product. All of these products, all the 700s, have a EWAN port, so you can utilize that feature for fiber as well as ADSL. The speeds, the wireless speeds, as I said, they're all 300, moving up to 1,200 megabits per second. Type of environments that you can sell these products into is your point of sale type clients, your retail guys, banks, financial institutions. They like the 7800. It's a robust product, and with the failover capabilities, it gives an edge to that business. Cool. Any questions?
No, all good.
All good, my side.
Magic. Okay, so this is the machine-to-machine products, which is your M100 and your M120N. Herman, I don't know which of this team were involved in your project that you did with the mining company, where you installed the M120Ns into those, but if those of you, some of you are new, it happened a year and a half ago, I think, Herman, where the requirement was for a vehicle to have a permanent LTE connection. So I think I don't know if it was going into a truck or into something quite hard.
It's James, so it was Enrico, now James took over that portfolio. So yeah, it's going into the trucks at the mining sites, building a complete network for communication purposes, yeah.
Correct. So you can imagine, guys, the mining environment, there's lots of dust. It's quite a harsh environment. Underground, some of those vehicles might be. It's extremely cold. Then it gets extremely hot. So you need a product that's well built. It has to have the correct IP ratings. And these machine-to-machine products, the M100, M120N, and the M500 range are built for these types of mission-critical solutions. So you have already deployed them. They work very well, and you get some cool features, on top of your standard modem routing features, which give it the edge. There's some ports on there that you can use to connect different features to, and run those features into your client's back-end system to give them visibility into where the vehicles are, whether they're on or off. It can operate off a battery, the vehicle's battery, so it goes into standby mode. So there's some very cool features that the machine-to-machine range offers. I would say that if you find a client saying, look, I can get this product, that product, this brand, that brand, the machine-to-machine range from Billion is what gives us, I believe, an edge, because we can customize and we can build a product around a solution, and we're offering a military spec product for $300, $400, $500, which is quite competitive in these types of environments. Globally, these products sell very well. The Royal Air Force uses the M500 in some of their aircraft. In the States, A lot of ambulances and a lot of schools and a lot of military vehicles use them. So it's quite a robust product, and I'd encourage you to look actively for these types of opportunities to sell into public transport, taxis. I know we a few years ago looked at Putco, Herman, and we weren't successful there, but that environment is where the solution would be perfect. Questions?
Apologies, Greg. Did you
Yeah.
mention that they are rugged devices?
Yes, these are rugged military spec devices. So they are built in a steel container. I'm sure Herman's got some samples he can show you. But yes, they are extremely ruggedized, and they have a military spec rating. So they can be taken into very harsh environments.
Great, thank you.
As I just said, guys, M100, M120N. The difference between the two is this: M120 has the wireless capabilities, and it has the 2 SIM slots. The M100 and M120N have a single LTE radio. I explained that to you guys already. So if the M120N were to have 2 SIM cards inserted into it, and one of the towers went down, there would be a couple of minutes lag before the second tower kicked in. So, if you don't want that, or if your clients are insisting on effectively a 24/7 uninterrupted connection, I would go for the M500, which has 2 concurrent LTE radios running and 2 SIM slots. And there's a whole lot of cool features where you can set up a minimum DBI, a minimum sort of signal level. So even if a tower is not down and the signal strength is low, you can still set it up to jump over to the second option. Okay, so the features, the EWAN features are also there in case if it's an office environment where the guy's got a fiber or ADSL line. You can use the fiber as primary or his ADSL as primary, and then the LTE as secondary. There you're offering him once again a triple WAN solution. That's very good for construction sites, mining environments. The SCADA component there it's an acquisition control protocol that allows you to interact with devices like pumps and valves and those type of things that you would find in an industrial site. It gives you the ability to integrate into those products, into that equipment, so that the client can view and monitor and control the equipment on site. Central management system. Herman, I think you've got your own TRO system, but Billion does have its own proprietary system. I'm hoping you understand what the CMS is all about, but it just gives telcos and operators the ability to deploy good volumes or hundreds or thousands of devices, and then monitor all of those devices from a single monitoring center with 1 or 2 resources that could then check if the devices are online or offline. They can diagnose, troubleshoot any problems. They can do firmware upgrades. They can set up alerts. Just be able to manage all of those devices remotely without having to send people to site, which obviously costs a fortune. I think you have worked with CMS in the past, Herman. I know you've got your own platform that you've built around TRO69.
Greg, yeah. So CMS, typically we come across like the likes of Xeros. There's AV system in the market. There's a few preferred remote management systems available. Yes. And the biggest challenge since we started with the Billion and on the CMS side is the operator space, ISP space. People are looking for a single platform to manage any CPE on it. So they're looking for something which is not proprietary to a single brand only. So hence the uptake on CMS on Billion has not been great. People tend to use other platforms which is open for all TRO69 compatible products. Yeah, so We actually don't have our own platform that we sell on to customers. We do recommend the CMS side of it, but a few people have really actually shown interest in this, just due to the fact that it's proprietary.
100%. So there's always two sides to a coin. So Xeros is a third party, as an example, platform, which has it has its pricing points and it's managed by a third party. And yes, you're right, it is standardized, and a lot of companies. I was actually involved with Xeros over 10 years ago, so I understand the benefits of it. And you're right, the ISPs and telcos like to have multiple brands, but a single CMS platform. So that there are benefits to it. The downside to it is that if there's price increases, or if there's buyouts, or if there's third party interference, then you lose that control. Whereas if it is proprietary, you're guaranteed to, so as long as the product exists, CMS will exist. So it really just depends on how you position the CMS. So as long as we have got our own proprietary CMS that is available, but because every router has a TR069 platform, it can be plugged into third-party CMSs, no problem. Okay, guys, just in terms of communication, you should know most of these guys. 5G, 4G, machine to machine, xDSL, which is ADSL and VDSL. The difference there is VDSL is just a lot quicker than ADSL. Fiber, very standard, failover and failback. You do load balancing, that just gives the router the ability to better manage the client's data. Quality of service that comes in on the VoIP side, where there's no jitter lags and no stutters. We understand that. Firewalls, that's where we set up security. So in a home environment, you could block certain IP addresses, portals, so that kids and members of the family don't end up randomly getting onto certain sites that they shouldn't be. The VPN security is there. It's been a feature that's been well promoted and sold. That's changing slightly with software-defined WAN, but still VPN is good. SIP, we've explained that. It's a protocol that just gives you the ability to make and receive data calls. The VRRP is your virtual route redundancy protocols, which just gives you the ability to assign IP routers to increase availability on routing parts. So it's more of a technical thing, but that's a feature that we have available. Hotspot, that's just a Wi-Fi hotspot. Dynamic routing is your ability to either set up a static IP address or dynamic IP address. I know with a lot of the VoIP services, the ISPs and the telcos prefer a static IP address so that they can control access to that router, and they can set it up and provision it and do what they need to do. And then the billion CMS we've already discussed. So in summary, guys, product flexibility, that's a selling feature. But if you got hold of one of the big brands and said to them, look, we need you to do this, this, and this on our routers, I can promise you'll battle. It will be a long, drawn-out process. Whereas with Billion, there is a willingness to explore customization and sit down with the clients and go, okay, what do you guys need? That's a selling feature. Multi-WAN, guys, that's what we're all about. We want connectivity that stays on. We have fiber in most areas. ADSL is being phased out. Point-to-point microwave and LTE is becoming huge. There's, 14,000, 15,000 LTE connections out there at the moment. So the multi-WAN feature is something that you should talk about with your clients. Say to them, are you on all the time? And a lot of the time they'll say, no, the line goes down. And then that opens the door to, saying, well, if your fiber line goes down, why aren't you failing over to LTE? And they'll say, well, what do you mean by that? And say, well, if your router has the ability to fail over, we can do that for you. You can set up. I mean, MTN's doing deals now where you're getting 500 gigs a month for $5.99. So for a business to have 500 gigs of data as a failover solution, I'm sure you would agree that for a day or two or a few hours, that's more than enough to keep running your business. Our price to performance ratio, as I mentioned, the machine to machine products are very robust. And if you compare them to other similar products, they are very cost effective. And for the features you're getting, it's definitely a value proposition. Quality and durability, guys, I get so many calls from clients that, end users that purchased the unit from MWeb 12 years ago, from Vodacom many years ago, from Telcom many years ago, asking, is there a native version of this? And those products have been around up to 15, 16 years, and they're still operating. So it is a decent quality product. It's not the cheapest, and it's definitely not aimed at the mass consumer market, as the next point says. It's not a massively produced product. Okay, it's more about what are your requirements and what is your setup. I don't know if any of you have ever set up a billion router. It is relatively easy, but it's not as simple as a lot of the plug and play products on the market currently. It's not really aimed at that retail space where you just click next, because it's designed around a slightly more technical environment where you might want to set up certain protocols and certain parameters for your client, and therefore it can't just be next. So, guys that are familiar with technology will know that the billion has the ability to be customized. This is this multi-WAN environment that we keep talking about, guys. You can see here, this is a scenario where you could explain to your clients that, if you have a billion router as your CPE, it can accommodate on the EWAN side a modem for fiber or ADSL, and then the failover and failback options on your SIM slots on LTE for operator A, M2M, and operator B protocol. So it does, it can be a central component or hub to your business or to your Soho office, or everyone's working from home. So, failover and connectivity being always on is very important. And I know, from experience, my GPON connectivity through AfriHost is often down because GPON is designed for residential deployment, not an active Ethernet protocol or standard or rollout. And active Ethernet is like a 1-to-1 type environment, whereas GPON is passive. And so you do get a lot of breaks in your connectivity because it's sort of best effort and it's passive. So there's a lot of splitters involved and a lot of hardware. So if the operator, whoever it might be, OpenServe or whoever it is, if they are doing work on that line, everybody goes down. And we do have a scenario where a lot of residential properties are losing connectivity. And to say to an ISP or telco, why don't you implement a dual SIM or a failover option within your client's environment, a lot of them would be interested in that conversation.